Put on your mental track shoes and run with me. This is the Pow Wow with Mayra. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we have Brandon Zorn. Brandon, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, Myra.
All right, so to get things started, I like to start by understanding or knowing, getting to know who Brandon is a little better. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do and a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, my wife and I, my family and I, we are missionaries, or depending on who we're talking to, English teachers or life coach, spiritual advisors, and we currently live in Central Europe.
Central
Yeah.
Europe.
Mhm.
Which part?
Currently Poland.
Currently Poland. Very nice. And uh, I know you have an interesting background. Where were you born?
I was born in Alberta, Canada, and have lived in Alberta, Canada, Manitoba, and then also in the Seattle area, and then the Nashville area, and then Dallas, Texas.
Okay. So you've moved around quite a bit. It sounds
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and now you're in Poland. And I think you're looking to relocate at some point
Mhm.
too, right?
Yeah.
So this whole moving thing, it's not nothing foreign to you.
No.
Yeah, you're used to it.
Yeah.
And so, how old were you when you moved from Canada to the U.S.?
It was 2 days before my 20th birthday. So
Okay. So you lived your first half of, or more than first half
mhm.
of your life over there. What caused the
So,
relocation?
my dad got remarried, and my stepmother is from the Seattle area, and
Okay.
so we decided to take the opportunity to move to the U.S. And just come and settle in the United States.
How did you take it? How did you take the news, or how did your father say, "Hey, Brandon, we're moving"?
Well, my family's interesting. All my family, they've all married. All the Canadian side on my dad's side, they've all married Americans, and so most of our family were already in somewhere in Seattle, somewhere in Florida. So they were kind of all spread out. And so when we had the opportunity when my dad told me, I was like, "Oh, this makes sense. I can be closer to my cousins." So, yeah.
Okay. So it was one that a new partner,
Mhm.
and then also you guys already had some strong ties with family here.
Yeah, we had so every Christmas is worked at every other Christmas we'd go down there to Seattle to visit, and then they would come up to Canada every other year to visit us, and so we were very familiar. Kind of, we had done that for like 10 years of our life. So
Okay,
yeah,
so it was in completely a whole new
no.
place. Okay. So how did you take relocating though your whole life, not just on vacation now, but now you're packing all of your stuff and moving to the US?
That was I'm 19, so at 19 you
It's a hard age,
yeah
right?
it is, and uh, you can't you don't really know anybody. Like, okay, well, you have family down there, and it looks familiar. And I had gone by choice to a private boarding school in Manitoba
Mm,
when I was 15, so I'd kind of already been away from home. So it's just kind of
okay. So you've kind of been somewhat conditioned already since
yeah, yeah,
since very early
yeah,
on. Okay. Did you like the idea? Did you think it was exciting?
yeah. Because like growing up in small town Canada, there's not really a whole lot of opportunity there, and so going to a big area like Seattle is just a lot more opportunity. So
Right,
yeah.
right. And what were your goals at the time? What did you think? Okay, there's more opportunity. This is exciting. Being away from home, it's really nothing strange to me. What was going on in your mind? What were your goals?
Well, so when I was in high school, I was talking to my dad on the phone. And he was asking me the same question: What were my goals?" And I told him like I wasn't very good at school, but at that time I had my first career kind of planned out. I want to become a Porsche mechanic, and in small town Canada, it's not really there's two dealerships in Canada really, and so my dad's like, "Well, focus on being a mechanic, but look at something else." And so that was kind of what I was going for. And then
Mm,
when we moved to Seattle, I was like, I can actually maybe look at becoming a Porsche mechanic, and so that's what I actually worked my way to, and I did that for about 2.5 or 3 years in the Seattle area. So
okay.
it took us 18 months before we were even allowed to get like any kind of work visa, and then right after that, I moved towards that goal. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay. So you had to go through the whole visa, uh, application to
Yeah.
come over
Yeah.
here.
So since my dad was already married, my stepmom could sponsor him. Then we had to
Mm,
wait for him to get his work permit, and then my dad could sponsor my brother and I. So yeah, so it
okay.
took a little while. So
Very nice, but it happened, and
yeah,
so everything kind of aligned.
yeah,
So you have a brother. I understand it's a twin
yeah,
brother,
yeah,
correct? Okay, so this is really interesting. Did you grow up with him? With your twin
yeah,
brother? Did you guys grow up
yeah,
together?
yeah. We played, played in bands together, rode bikes, we played hockey together. So yeah.
Okay, okay. And so how is growing up with a twin brother? Because uh you guys have a few, I mean, differences, but for the most part, I mean, you guys look very similar.
Yeah.
So,
He
some twins don't look alike. They look very different, but you guys look very much
Yeah,
alike.
he has less hair than me, so I always bug him about that. He's the one that's going bald. So, um, we didn't think much about it because it was just like everyone I grew up with had siblings.
Mhm.
They weren't twins, but everyone had siblings. So we just I have a sibling. I didn't know what it was like to be. He's the older one, so I didn't know what it was like to be the younger brother. We were just always together.
Yeah. How was your relationship with him? And the reason I ask, I mean, I have siblings too. Now we get along great, but growing up, I mean, it was, I feel sorry for my mom. Let's put it that
Mhm.
way. We were always on great terms. If somebody wanted blue, the other wanted yellow. And, we were always kind of like, we were just different. I don't know if it's maybe the age difference, because we're about 4 years
Mhm.
apart. So, I mean, at that point, when you're 14, the other sibling is 10. And when you're young, it's kind of a bigger
Yeah.
difference, right? Like
Mhm.
it's such a much different stage versus when you grow up, you're 21 and you're hanging out with somebody that's 25 and that's completely okay. Or you're 30 and you're hanging out with somebody who's 34 and, that's completely okay. But when you're young, I feel
Mhm.
like it's such a big gap. But for you guys, there wasn't that gap, right? So, how was your relationship with him growing up?
When we were young, it was actually really good because we had the same interests, same friends, and so we just all everyone just all kind of hung out together, and we didn't really think about it. So
That's so
yeah,
cool.
it changed as we got older, just because we went down different paths, and
Mhm.
kind of, he lived in Arizona, I was in Seattle, and then he was touring, and so it kind of we developed our own lifestyles.
Mhm. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. That makes sense. But that's so beautiful.
Mhm.
I love that. And as a matter of fact, Logan and I think about that now that we have our daughter. We're like, well, let's not have them too far apart so that they can be friends and siblings at the
Yeah.
same time. So it's really cool to hear that.
So, yeah, like I tell Jess all the time, we work well together. Like when we're here, we can hang out and we work well together. Go and we can build a shed or repair a car together really well. But we've tried to be roommates before as older adults, and it just didn't work because of he was touring for 10 years, and so he was just used to having. He lived out of a suitcase and was used to having house clean up after him all the time. So he'd leave his stuff on the ground, and I was always very more have to be organized and had my own. Yeah,
Ways.
yeah,
Right. Okay. I see. I see. Very cool. So a mechanic, a porch mechanic.
mhm,
That's very specific.
mhm.
Like what? How do you always had like a drive towards cars or vehicles?
I have my dad and I, we've always been in the cars.
Mm.
We had a family heirloom, it was a go-kart, and it hadn't run when we got it, it hadn't run in probably 15 or 20 years, so, my best friend and I, we actually, at 8 years old, 10 years old, we actually rebuilt the motor on that, and that kinda got things, going and stuff like that, and then,
Wow.
and his father was a mechanic and they had a old hot rod pickup and a race car that they did, like it was like a NASCAR, so we've kind of always been around it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. I see. And what about growing up with your mother? Did you grow up with her too? Did you have much time? It sounds like, you at the age of almost 20, you kind of came with your father.
Yeah, my parents divorced when I was, 14.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I have a good relationship with her, and I've always had a good relationship with her, but I think sons are always closer to their father, especially are always closer to their father, especially when they so have a lot of similar hobbies.
That makes
My
sense.
my brother is follows kind of in takes after more my mom as far as personality and interests and stuff like that, and I
Okay.
take it more after my dad. So
That's
yeah,
interesting, and that's the only brother you have?
yeah, biological brother. Yeah,
Biological.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay, very cool. So, how was your experience when you moved to Seattle? Like, what did you expect, and what was the reality?
I don't think I was expecting anything,
Oh, well, that's great.
it was, "Like, let's do this." I was excited.
Okay,
The
you were
more
open.
yeah, the older I get, the more traveling the more traveling, the more places I've lived, and more even training I've done as far as we've done a lot of cross-cultural training. There was a lot of stuff that as I look back, I'm like, "Okay, that's why I was doing that because it was different."
Mm,
Growing up in Canada, 80% of the Canadian population live within 60 miles of the US, or sorry, yeah, 60 miles of the US border. And we
mm.
get American news channels, and so we're very much
Integrated,
integrated
yeah.
with American culture, and so you think it's always the same, and
Okay.
it's 80% the same. It's the 20% that's different that you can't figure out, and it's not bad. You just can't figure it out. And so going up at 19, I'm like, okay, well, I'm familiar with it. I watch the news and stuff like that, but then there's just little things that are different that you don't understand, and you, at that age you don't recognize. So
Mhm. Right, right. And so how old were you when you came to the DFW area?
I was 26. Yeah.
26. And so what was the reason for the move?
So, I was in Seattle for about 5.5 years, and I just got tired of the rain.
Oh,
That was the biggest reason why. Yeah, Seattle, it's beautiful, like, in the summer and, late spring and early autumn, it's a beautiful place. But the winters can be long and dark, and just yeah, I got tired of the rain.
mm,
And then my, brother, was, at that time, he was coming out of, college, and he was, a sound engineer, and so he had his internship in Nashville, but it was not paid, and so I moved out there with him to kind of like, well, I have savings, and I moved out there with him, to help pay bills, and so he could focus on his, career.
okay, Nashville. How long did you last in Nashville?
Uh, I was there 18 months.
18
Yeah, because
months.
he had already been there 6 months, and had committed to 2 years.
Mm.
So I kinda figured my time would be eight 12 to 18 months. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. What did you do while you were there?
We lived, actually, about an hour north of Nashville in a town called Bowling Green, Kentucky. So
Okay.
I did various things, 'cause I'm not gonna be here forever, so worked for Verizon Wireless for a little bit, test drove Corvettes. The Corvettes built this, so I test drove Corvettes for a little bit, tried to sell cars for a little bit. So, yeah.
Okay, okay, and so why Dallas out of all the places?
When my brother was leaving, I started looking for work again back as a Porsche mechanic,
Mm,
and the dealership in Dallas was the one that hired me, so that's what originally brought me to Dallas, was for that.
okay,
Yeah.
and what did you learn with, being there as a mechanic? I mean, it sounds like that was, like, your goal from since Canada.
Yeah, it
What
was.
what what did you learn?
Um, it wasn't for me. It the company I work for, it's a fantastic company. They treat their employees really well. But it just yeah, it wasn't for me. Just um
Did your goals change?
uh yeah, I think, and as I look back, there was always this kind of fire inside of me that was there's more than to this just this world, and it was, I think it
Mm,
was like I wanted to be kind of a world changer, and the private school I went to, it was a Christian school, and their main vision was to, educate people that would become either missionaries or pastors, or to do something in the religious world.
oh,
I went there because my uncle was the chairman of the board, and I thought it would be a good opportunity, my brother and I, be a good opportunity to just learn to be independent. But I had my plan, even when I entered that, was like, well, I'm going to be a Porsche mechanic, and my brother was going to be a sound engineer. So we went into this high school with kind of already career path mapped out.
and it sounds like you kinda like, because now, you're a minister. Is that right? Is that what
Sure.
it's called?
Well, missionary. That's
Missionary,
a long. That's a
sorry.
long. I mean, you can use minister because people understand that. Minister, pastor, people understand that. So
Okay, okay, but it's what again?
missionary. Yeah,
Missionary. Okay, I'll get that right. I apologize.
no problem.
Okay, and so it sounds like you kind of either way you went to that private school
Mhm.
being young, and then you thought maybe there was more to just being a Porsche
Yeah,
mechanic,
yeah.
and was becoming a
Mhm.
missionary, was that what came to mind, or no?
Eh, um, Not originally, but when I was in Dallas, I met a guy here who was he had done just short-term trips overseas, and he had gone to Estonia, and I had met another person that had gone to Ukraine. Well, when I was in school, that was the kind of the two areas of focus that school focused on in Europe was Estonia and Ukraine, and then they also focused on Uganda and Zambia in Africa. And I had forgotten about that until they mentioned that, and I was about a year into my career at Porsche, and I was like, "Okay, something's going on here," because I grew up in a small town in Canada, and I meet this guy who knows the same people I know in Canada and in these same countries. So
So it's kind of like an internal, just kind of thing talking to you, like, hey, like, whoa.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I remember back like I had expressed interest in doing. We call it cross cultural work. So I had gone to the classes, gone to some of the ceremonies, and again, I went to school. My entire school was 125 people.
Mm,
My graduating class was 28.
wow.
So
Okay. Yeah.
you know,
That puts it into perspective.
and a small town of 8,000 people in the middle of nowhere, Manitoba. You don't really know the opportunities way to go about it. So
I
yeah.
see. I see. Okay, that's very interesting. So what did you do next after, you're having these thoughts now that are conflicting, like,
So I was invited to go with this guy and another group we went for 10 days and worked at a youth camp that was sponsored by the church in Tallinn, Estonia. And so we went, and I was like, "Okay, this is what I want to do." Because like I said, Porsches are great, but it was just not what I want to focus on. I'm like, there's definitely more to it, and there's definitely better use of resources, not only my resources, but resources in the world. And
wow.
when there's in the United States and most of the Western world, we just have excess wealth. And so I was like,
I
I want to
see.
be able to fix that system from inside out, and not have physical wealth, but have spiritual wealth. So
Right,
yeah.
right. Okay, that's beautiful. So, I know you're married.
Mhm.
Um, at what point in your life did you meet your now wife?
Mhm. That was trying to think what year that was. I met her in 2013. So
Sounds about
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, and for those that don't know, your wife, I used to work with
yeah.
her, and so okay, so how did you guys meet
At church.
at
Yeah,
church?
at the church that supported us and sent us to Poland. Yeah, we met there. So
Met here,
Yeah,
met
met
here
in North Richland Hills.
in North.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and then how long was it in the works? Were you already in the works to be a missionary, outside of here? Were you already in the works, or did you meet her at church and then that kind of sparked?
So I
How did that happen?
so I had done short-term trips to Estonia in 2009 and 10, and then I did a missions internship in Estonia in 2011. So I was there for 6.5 months.
Okay.
I lived there, and then in 2012 I went to Eastern Ukraine, and I lived there for a little bit. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. And by doing that, you knew that's what you wanted to
yeah,
continue
yeah.
doing. Okay. And so you meet your now wife, and did you tell her what your goals were at the time?
I did, yeah.
Okay. And was she like right on, yes, let's do it, or did it take some convincing?
It uh
Because well, let me ask you this. Do you know if she like had left the US prior?
She had only been I think she at that point, I don't think she had left at all. I think maybe she'd gone to Mexico, maybe, but yeah, I don't think she had really left the U.S. at all. So,
That like
yeah,
especially for those type of
yeah,
like missions,
yeah.
right? Like
Mhm.
okay. So how was the conversation with, with your now wife? Well, at the time you guys started
Yeah.
dating,
Oh,
right?
it was a little tough, and as you know, like she had just come out of a really bad relationship, a long term relationship, and so she was just a little hesitant to start dating so soon, anyway. So yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right. And so now you say, "Hey, this is my history.
hmm
This is kind of like my mission. This is kind of what I want to do, which doesn't really involve staying in North Richland
hmm
Hills. It involves more so kind of continuing
yeah.
traveling." Did she how did she take that?
That was exciting to her.
It
So yeah,
was.
when I met her, I was actually um, planning on going and living in Thailand for a while and doing that. And then I met her, and I was like, well, let me stay here for a little bit and see if there's anything to this. And so
Okay, and it sounds like there
yeah,
was.
yeah,
It was a
yeah,
good choice.
yeah.
It sounds like you kind of listen a lot to your internal feelings. Like, you know what I mean?
hmm
Because sometimes people just kind of live by whatever the outside brings to them. They just kind of go by that, but it sounds like you're very deliberate on, your emotions and what you're very in tune.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's just um, me spending time in prayer, listening to the Lord, but also I have a lot of people who are older and wiser than me, and so I understand that they have a lot of value, and we can learn a lot from them.
Mm.
I still remember the my partner that I was with in Ukraine. He At the time I was almost 30, and he was 77 at the time. And so I just got to spend just a lot of time listening to him, at that point I didn't want to get married. I didn't want to focus just on doing, the Lord's work. And he told me some very wise words, and he goes, "You just pray and just ask and just invite and see if that's something the Lord wants you to do." And I still remember I was like, "And Lord, I'm pretty dumb, so make it pretty obvious."
Wow,
So
what a great
mhm,
advice.
yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. And well, and sometimes but it goes both ways because
Mhm,
you also listen,
mhm,
sometimes good advice is out there, but then the question is, are you going to take it?
mhm.
And so have you been learning about the Lord since a child, since you were little, or when did this become more of a educational thing for you?
So I I'm what they call a third culture kid. Okay, so my mother is second generation Japanese, and my father is Austrian and Polish. My my dad's mother, my grandmother, she's actually a Polish refugee from the first Russian Ukraine war in 1929. And so they settled in northern Canada in September or September October of 1929. And so they were the ones that kind of went to church, going to church. But my mother is Japanese, and so because they're Japanese, they grew up. They didn't go to Buddhist temple, but were Buddhist. It was more of an identity thing. So I
Okay.
was caught in the middle.
I
Yeah.
see. I see. Oh, that's so
So
interesting.
because as a third culture kid, at least you don't really fit into any pegs. Like my dad's ward is yellow, my mom's ward is blue, and I'm orange. Yeah.
Yes, right.
So
I like that
yeah.
example. Okay. Okay. Um okay, so you meet your wife,
hmm
Jessica, and you guys get to know each other. Seems like things are going good. She kind of loves the idea,
hmm
from what I understand, of your goals. Um and so how long after that do you guys uh kind of move on into that realm?
So any church or missions training organization, they always encourage you to wait 1 year after marriage before pursuing moving overseas. Because
Okay.
there is a lot of stress in moving overseas, not only just managing language, but just living in a completely different culture. And so we were married. We were married for 2 years and a week when we moved overseas. So
Okay.
we got to Poland on the 29th of October of 2016, and our anniversary is the 13th of October of
Oh, okay.
2014. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so Poland. Now, why Poland? Is the first place where you both go there as a
Mhm.
family. Did you guys get to choose Poland, or did you guys have other options? How did that unfold?
So we just wanted to serve the Lord together, and Jess has, her first foreign language that she learned was Spanish. Yeah, and so at the time she was proficient in Spanish, and so she always kind of, well, let's look at going to South America. But I had always had a heart for uh, specifically Central and Eastern Europe, and so we're like, well, let's just pray and see what the Lord wants us to do. And we spoke with our church, and they told us that, well, we're not really sending people to South America anymore. It's just not what we want to do. But so we rolled that out real fast because they weren't going to support our work there, and that's fine. And so we started praying, and there was a Polish flag hanging in the atrium of the church. And so I didn't know that worked there because typically they focus on Africa or East Asia.
Mm.
And so I said, well, let's just pray for Poland and see if I can find out who's there. And that was it. And then 2 days later, our trainer and mentor, he had been praying and talking. He goes, "I think you guys might be a good fit for Poland." So
Mm.
while we did choose, but we didn't.
I
Yeah.
see. I see. Okay, so what does the training look like? Like did you and her have to have training here before moving,
Yeah.
or what does
Yeah.
that look like?
It varies from depending if a church trains you or if a organization trains you. It varies from church to church, and so they trained us on church planning methods, also on uh, how to kind of recognize spiritual warfare, how to um, speak to immigration officers, like what you do and stuff like that, and what it's like living cross culturally. So
Okay, so that, yeah, they kind of prime you in some
yeah.
sense to,
Hmm.
I guess, for success, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure you're ready
Yeah.
because it's a whole different culture, like you said,
Yeah.
language. Now, speaking of language, how many languages do you speak?
Uh, English fluently. I'm okay in Polish. I can read it and understand it better than I can speak it. And just as the opposite, she can speak it and understand it really well. So we make a good team that way.
Mm.
Um, but I've learned when I lived in Estonia, I learned a little bit of Russian 'cause I worked at a Russian speaking church. But then I also had to learn Estonian to kind of function in the city. And then with that, because they're Slavic languages, we can understand Czech, Slovak, Ukrainian, Russian, all the kind of the Slovak languages are kind of all intertwined. So
Wow. Okay. So, uh, do you like study the language prior to going to the place where you know you're gonna go, or do you kind of go and you learn as you go? How does that work? Because in some sense, like the work you guys are doing, it's like you have to kind of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to you communicate with other people, right?
mhm,
You're,
mhm.
like you said, you're teaching them
Yeah.
essentially the Lord's word.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, so to communicate it, that's to kind of close that
Yeah.
gap is you kind of have to speak their language.
Yeah. Uh, that would be that's the way most people would do it. Like you typically go into your host country and then you learn the language. So like we have friends that they're moving back to the US, but they were in Chile for 12 years, and so they were actually in a different city in Chile learning Spanish for a year before going to their actual city that they've lived in now for 11. That's the way it typically works. But we had originally only committed to doing 3 years, and it was just doing an English program. And so we didn't do an intense language because we would be talking and teaching English all the time. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay, so it's kind of like killing a few birds with one stone.
mhm,
You're teaching English and you're also teaching the Lord's word.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, because it's all the workbooks were all from the Bible.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
okay. Oh, that's really interesting. So you guys knew that already before going there.
Yeah.
That's what was gonna.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why you said your title just kind of depends who you're
Yeah.
talking to. You could be an English
Yeah.
teacher, or a life coach, because at the end of the day, it
Mhm.
is life,
Mhm.
or a way to seeing life
Yeah.
right through the Lord's
Yeah.
eyes.
With this new role, I'm moving into more of a consulting type role, so, yeah.
Okay, and what role is this? What are you moving into?
I'm moving, so we're relocating to Budapest, Hungary, and we'll
Okay.
be, working, our goal is to have teams in all 44 countries using, media to spread the Bible, and my actual role is the prayer catalyst, but it's also I'm working with different teams and consulting them and coaching them on how to, on what works best for them and how to just kinda get the best message out there.
So you going kind of like the media
Mhm.
route. Very smart. I mean, everybody has some sort of device now.
Mhm.
So how do you how are you how do you plan on like now like what's the like what kind of media production are you guys doing? Is it like video forms or I don't know.
I typically well, it'll vary from country to country. That's why we work with people in those countries because what works in Poland might not work in Germany. I, I just read things in Poland are changing. Like it was Facebook a lot, but now more and more people are moving to Instagram in Poland, and so we just have to, So if we were wanting to reach the masses, we would probably slowly move away from Facebook and into Instagram. In
Okay.
places like in Western Europe, I didn't get the numbers, but just in Western Europe in general, TikTok is now, in August of 2023, TikTok, there was 107 million downloads of TikTok, and that's all of Western Europe, and so they're kind of moving towards TikTok.
I love the fact that, you guys are using social media, which
Mhm,
is where almost everyone is at, to not just have people just doing silly dances,
mhm,
but actually putting stuff of
mhm,
value,
mhm.
information of value where people can learn, well, learn
Yeah,
really, right?
yeah, so we help with, we use, like, Google Ads and stuff, like Google retargets ads, so, you go on and you buy, with I thought your baby stroller out front. So you go on, you look at baby accessories, and all of a sudden you start seeing, well, you just bought this. How about we buy this? You want to buy, and you start seeing either just quick 15-second commercials or 5-minute commercials on items stuff like that.
I
And
see.
so as we are looking for these people who want to know, who are seeking spiritual answers, a lot of times, well, who's the man in white, or is Jesus real? How can I know the Bible is real? We have It's starting to target these people, and using the exact same uh, logarithms that all the other Nike or whatever would use, and
Right.
they start seeing these commercials. But instead of just having just a commercial, we have a call to action button, and so we have like a chat window come up, or if it's on Instagram, you can send them a DM. Or I don't know how TikTok works. That's not my area. We have someone on our team that is the technologist that he probably understands it better than I do. So
I
yeah.
see. So, are there already different teams in these countries that you're going to be consulting with, or are you looking to build teams?
Both, both. Currently,
Both.
yeah, currently we coach 11 teams
Okay.
in 11 different countries, but we want to hit all 44 countries. So,
Okay. Okay. So you have to kind of find
yep.
people
Mhm.
that kind of just kind of follow the steps
Mhm.
and want to do what you guys are
Yeah,
doing.
and typically it's all, we look for already established churches or mission teams that want to have a wider reach in their country or in their region. Yeah,
Okay, I see. So you reach out to these places that are already there
yeah,
and just kind of help build it
yeah,
on top of that
yeah,
using so the tools such as social
yeah.
media.
And so it breaks down the language barrier because I don't have to learn all 44 languages, and because typically on international teams, you have nationals and then you have expats who will speak the language. Like, we have a team in Italy that it's a combination of both. And so the American are fluent in Italian and in
Mhm.
English. And so there's no language barrier.
I see.
Yeah.
Though that's really
Yeah.
helpful for sure. So with the relocation that you've done already, how does that look like now being a counselor and kind of in one spot working with 44, hopefully at some point
Mhm.
the 44 different
Mhm.
countries? Um like, how do you plan on, or where do you, what's the plan for you guys? Do you guys have a set location or just continually
No,
kind of visiting all these different places? What
so
does that look like?
so our team is actually in Budapest,
Okay.
and so the team that we work with, the One Kingdom team, is we're in Budapest, and so that'll be our home base. Like we'll have a home there, and the girls will be enrolled in school there, and then I'll just do Zoom. I can do Zoom calls daily or weekly, and then try to do quarterly. I'm trying to like I'm breaking it down, trying to do quarterly site visits. So I'll go, like maybe take like 10 or 12 days and go visit 6 or 7 different places.
I see, because this is what you guys are transitioning
Yeah,
into. So this is really what's on the works right
yeah,
now with making it as efficient as
yeah.
possible and spreading the word faster, the fastest, really.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I've done those trips before where we visit. The last one I did was in 2017, and we did 6 different countries in 12 days. And so I tell people I've been everywhere and I've seen nothing. 'Cause you get off the plane at like 2 in the afternoon, go to meetings, have meetings all afternoon, and all following day have meetings, and then wake up the next morning, get on the plane again.
And do it
Yeah,
again.
you, you
Yeah.
you might see a cathedral or like a tourist spot on the way to lunch.
I
So
see. Okay. You've been everywhere but seen nothing.
yeah,
That's a good way to
yeah,
put it. That's how busy or
yeah,
fast you
yeah,
guys are moving.
yeah.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I guess I kind of jumped a little bit forward here with what you guys are doing now. That sounds
Mhm.
really interesting. But I am interested in learning more about what your experience in Poland
Okay.
was. For a couple of reasons, like, and it reminded me, you mentioned, your
Hmm.
kids, and so I'm assuming they were not born here.
That they went up. So
Okay, and was it in Poland?
yeah, yeah,
Okay, so what did you expect, or as you know, because now it's not, you're not traveling by yourself like you
right.
did before.
Hmm.
Now you have at the time you have a wife,
Hmm.
and you guys thankfully you guys were able to go to Poland.
Hmm.
And so what did you expect, and what did you encounter with? What were some of the challenges you faced? Let's put it that way.
Um, Poland is a very wonderful country, very beautiful country, and people are very, very, but the people can be still very, very hurt from the past.
Mm,
Um, here in the United States, we learn about World War II and stuff in history classes and stuff like that, and some people pay attention, most people don't, right?
right.
But we know a little bit about it, and when people think of Poland, that's what they think about is World War II,
Mhm.
and World War II is still very much on the mind of a lot of people, even
Mm,
even 20 somethings, and there's a lot of just hurt from that because of World War II. Their grandfather, just started drinking, or because of World War II, their family was torn apart because they were, shipped off to the camps, or they had family members that were killed and stuff like that. So people are still very, very hurt, and you can,
they can still feel the aftermath of what
yeah,
happened.
yeah,
It's
and
still
then
close.
yeah, and then also, 40 years later, communism came. So yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
you know,
Okay, so how, like, what kind of tactics or methods did you guys use to? Because at the same, I think, like, trust, it's a big thing, right?
mhm,
Like, when you build trust, it's easier to, you know, get into their hearts, or, kind of get them at least to just
mhm.
listen. So, would you say trust was a thing?
And that takes a long time. That's why, like, when churches or organizations, they look at work all over the world, in Africa and in the Middle East, it can kind of move really a lot faster.
Mm,
But in Central and Eastern Europe, trust takes a long time. Like took us at least 3 years to before we had a actual real meaningful conversation before people would open up and trust us.
mm.
In the United States, we have it's like, "Oh, how you doing?" And we can start a conversation right away, most people. But in Poland and in Central, other parts of Eastern and Central Europe, it's very much, "Can I trust you?" And you have to kind of prove that you can, instead of
Mm.
just, "I will trust you."
Right. Instead of just doing, you have to
Yeah.
kind of prove yourself. So what were some of the tactics you guys used, or some of the methods?
Um, I don't like tactic, but yeah, methods. So it's just being true to your word. Like we have, one of our he's one of our best friends now. That, Lady and Hana call him uncle. And one of the things was just being true to our word. Like he was a snowboard instructor, and we told him like, well, we are going to come visit you, and he
Mm.
goes like, okay, yeah, you have thinking, you have other stuff to do, but no, we actually like let's map this out, and when can we go? It the nice thing about being missionaries is that we don't have a 9 to 5 job, and so we can kind of just say, well, we're just going to take this week and just going to go up to the mountains to be with him,
Okay.
and you guys actually came, and so it's just being true to your words,
That makes
saying
so much
saying
sense.
saying what you mean, doing, actually doing what you say you're gonna.
Following up
Yeah,
with your word for
yeah,
sure. I mean, the word it has a lot of value.
hmm,
It sounds like it has much more value than what it is here,
hmm,
right? Which I mean, it's still valuable everywhere because I mean, even here, but I can see, especially with the history where I mean, you kind of have to prove yourself, like you said,
yeah.
in a sense.
Yeah, and in Poland, because they've had such a they've been invaded a lot, and they were actually they didn't even exist for
Mm.
123 years. Like they were completely wiped off the map for 123 years. And so trusting foreigners is something that's just deep in their soul. It's like, what do they want?
It's like they're almost taught to not to kind of be, aware or to just have caution almost.
That's how it was. So I mentioned communism earlier. So right now, this generation now that are essentially 30 and under, they are the first ones to be kind of born under a free Poland with without any kind of oppression. And so we can see it in the younger generation that they're, and they can, with the European Union and Schengen, they freely travel, and so they're more receptive to foreigners. But people older than them, that a lot of them are still kind of, can we trust these people just because they've grown up with it. So either from
Mhm.
their grandparents or great grandparents or their parents.
That makes
So
sense, that makes sense. So how long were you in Poland?
we've been there 7 years.
7
Yeah,
years, so it took about 3 years to kind of
yeah.
and, I guess that word travels fast, and so, once you start getting trust, I'm
Mhm.
sure it starts getting a little bit easier because they can see familiar faces they trust, so it's easier to break down
Yeah,
those walls
yeah,
and, say,
mhm,
"Okay, well, let's see what these guys are saying."
yeah,
Okay, and did you guys market certain like target certain areas or people or like how does that work, because well, especially I mean, I guess you have more experience, but like for example, with somebody say like Jessica that
mhm,
this was new to her, like how do you adapt to the culture? I mean, I'm sure it's got to be hard overall just to go from one place that you know very well that you've been forever and
mhm,
then you go somewhere that you're not very familiar with. Culture's different, like you mentioned.
mhm.
So,
I think it was definitely the Lord's doing, putting us to Poland first, because my grandmother was Polish. I grew up with a lot of Polish traditions. I didn't know what they were. It's like, well, it's just my grandma being grandma. But having been there, and as I
mm,
got older, and even before I left, knowing that she was Polish, I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense why she did this or why she decorated like that. So it helped us to ease into it because there was a lot of familiarity to me. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is yes, this is Polish. And so, for Jess, it was a lot harder. I think the first probably year and a half was
mm,
really hard for her. And
mhm.
then, she kinda did one thing at a time. I didn't push her. Like, there were things like, thankfully in Europe, you can walk a lot, but, we did have a car that we would use to go outside of the city and travel, but she didn't drive for the first 18 months because it
Okay,
was just a lot to take in, and
right.
we were okay, okay with that. So,
For
yeah.
sure. I mean, it's a lot sometimes when you're just moving from a city to another or a state to
Mhm,
another.
mhm.
It's a big difference
Yeah,
still here in the US. It's everything's different, so I can't imagine,
yeah,
going to a whole different to
yeah,
going overseas.
yeah.
So and okay, first off, I want to say hats off to you. You mentioned, it was tough for her, but you didn't push her. You
Mhm,
were patient with
mhm.
her. So I just want to take off my hat
Okay,
to
thank
that because I think that is so important. Um and I say that just in my own personal experience. Like, I feel like Logan has been, my husband's been very patient with a lot of things with
Mhm.
myself. And I think I wouldn't be where I'm at without his like just support
Mhm.
and his patience, and not pushing anything, just kind of being supportive with his support. Right. So did you guys have any like training on, hey, this is gonna be difficult? Like training as a not just going and doing the missionary
Mhm.
work, but training as how to deal as a couple in a new place.
Yeah, and yeah, we did, and we've had a fantastic, they're an older couple. Actually, this couple, they were missionaries in Belgium for 16 years, about 30 odd years ago, and then the husband actually went to school with my uncle, and so that relationship goes back 50 years, and so we had um, you know, marriage counseling, I guess, before field, and then they would check in with us once a month or once a quarter just to kind of do more, just see
Okay.
how we're doing and stuff like that, and
I
yeah.
see. Okay, well that's super helpful, and what a blessing. It sounds like you guys have a really good strong team behind you is what it sounds
Uh,
like.
uh, yeah, we had a strong team in some areas. There are other areas that now that we had kids that we didn't have that we wish we did, and we're slowly getting there now. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, there you go. Now
Mhm.
you can see a spot where, okay, now
Mhm.
families with kids.
Mhm.
Now, okay. So tell me, when did you guys have your first child?
Well, um, I don't know if you know this, but Jess has actually been pregnant 3 times. So
Okay.
the first time we found out she was pregnant, 6 weeks after we arrived in Poland,
Okay.
but then she had a miscarriage in, that February. So, 3 months in, she had a miscarriage,
Okay.
and so that was really tough. But our church was really good on it, and they encouraged us to, just take some time away. So we actually drove into Czech Republic and just spent, 5 or 6 days there. So it was a good break. I don't remember a whole lot of it because we were grieving, you know?
Mm.
But then, we had Lydia in, September of 2019. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so how is now how what does your life look like as a missionary now, and now raising also a child?
Mhm.
And you guys speak English, and learning Polish, and you guys are living in Poland. So what does that look like?
So Lydia is a third culture kid. She's not a Polish citizen. They don't have that, but she is Canadian and American.
Okay.
But if you ask her where she's from, she'll say Poland. She identifies as Polish, because
So cute.
that's her reality.
That's all she
You know,
knows.
right? So,
Right.
that's- and so her, um, we we've been there long enough, and so we raised it like, okay, this is the way most people do it. We don't do it. We can't do it because we're not Polish. We don't understand it. But a lot of stuff we're like, okay, yeah, that's the way a Polish kid will do it at school. That's fine.
Oh.
Like they have tea at lunch.
Oh.
So they actually have hot tea at lunch, and that's even her younger sister Hannah at 2.5, they have tea at lunch, and that's completely normal. So
Okay. So she's interacting with other uh kids in Poland as well,
yeah,
or does she go to somewhere separate, like private,
well,
or
it is a private international school, and so like there are Polish kids there, but like one of her best friends is his dad is Colombian and his mother is Russian, but he was born in Panama, and they speak Spanish at home,
okay.
And then Hannah's best friend is actually they came to Poland when she was 6 months old, but from Ukraine, and so her best friend is Ukrainian, and
Mm.
then there's other kids in there from Japan and at one point, they have since moved to Switzerland, but they were from South Africa. So,
So it's nice knowing, like, being a third generation kid,
mhm,
and you kind of are you can empathize with
mhm,
that a little bit more on maybe the way she's growing up. It's not similar to most kids,
yeah,
right?
mhm,
And it just is what it is, but it's so beautiful that she has all these different experiences, and is able to be able to be around these other kids with
mhm,
also different backgrounds.
yeah. Like for her reality, like her reality is all her friends speak at least two languages.
Mm.
English and Polish, and or Spanish and something else. Your daughter probably speaks both English and Spanish, so for her that's normal. But for most
Right.
kids in the United States, it's like I only speak one, and so for
Right.
her to have kids that speak multiple languages is normal for her.
I see.
And then when she comes here and tries to speak to people who don't speak Spanish, English, or Polish, and they're like, you know, I can't communicate with you, you know.
Do
So
you see that
yeah,
her struggling
yeah.
trying to communicate when she comes here?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the first week we were here, we were walking around. We were in northern Kentucky, and we were walking around, and people were waving, and she kept saying "Dzień dobry," which is "good day" in Polish, and we're like, They speak English," and it took her a while, and
That's
then
so
we
cute.
finally caught her. We finally saw her catching it, and she was like, and then she goes, "Oh, hello, good morning." So
Oh,
yeah.
that's so cute. Um, she says good morning
Mhm.
to just,
Well, yeah, because that's how that's how you greet people. You walk into any shop, you walk into a restaurant, and you say hello, a good day, a good morning. So yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah,
that's just
okay.
Polish etiquette. So
Yes, yes. I love that. So, as far as like your experiences and the work you guys are doing there, um, how what are some of the opportunities that you guys were able to open and take advantage or not take advantage but open and see and kind of expand in what opportunities presented, I guess,
so
while you guys were there.
uh, so, so our team that we are we work with a team right now that we originally had committed to 2 years, but we joined this team in 2019, and so 2020, 2021, we couldn't really do much, and
Mm.
so what turned into a 2 year commitment is going to end up being four in the end of 2024, and we actually opened up a cafe
Mm.
with also where church meets, and it's under a nonprofit, and so it's a Christian business, which here there's a lot of Christian business here, but in Central and Eastern Europe, there's not a lot, and so
Oh.
it allows the public to come in and just you know have a good place have a good place to have a cup of coffee, or we have really good food and stuff, and it also puts them in contact with people who are more than just someone who's like, "Oh, I read the Bible on Sundays." It's like someone who actually lives out the gospel and stuff like that. And oh, these people actually aren't weird. They aren't, they aren't hateful. They aren't, what they see on the news. So,
Okay, that's interesting.
yeah.
Is interesting you say that. Is that something they see on the news? Like in regards to say Americans?
I think it depends on the election cycle.
That
So
makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. So
Okay. Okay, okay. And so you have your first daughter and it sounds like things go
mhm.
well, and then did you guys plan your second
We
daughter?
did, yeah. Because of what we do, we wanted to have them fairly close together. We didn't want to have a large gap. Like having a 4-year-old and a newborn. That kind of ideal because then the 4-year-old can help with the newborn. But um, because they travel, we travel, and we want them to be close so that when we do enter a new country, that they have each other at first to kind of
Mm.
experience new adventures and stuff like that. So
That's so smart.
yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I agree, especially with, opening up in the very beginning of the podcast saying, 4 year difference, it's a big difference when
Mhm.
you're little. So I see that.
And our girls are 20 months apart. So
20
yeah.
months. Awesome. So how did Lydia take how does she take having a younger sibling?
I think she's still adjusting to it. I think if Lydia had her way, she would be an only child. So, but then there are days when they're just really sweet to each other. Like right before we came to Texas, we drove from Poland to Hungary, which is about a 9-hour drive, and they both of them are just really sweet and stuff like that. So you
Oh.
figure a 9-hour drive with 2 kids under 5. No, they travel really well. So we've done that, and even went to Germany, and that was a 9.5-hour drive, and yeah, they did really well. So
Yeah, it's already in their blood.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, sweet, sweet. So, what else did you learn in Poland? What can you tell us about Poland? Anything you maybe haven't asked, like anything exciting or
Uh, a lot of exciting. Polish people are extremely hardworking, and they are extremely intelligent.
mm.
I always tell people that if you're in a competition and Polish people show up, just leave.
They're
They
passionate, sounds like.
yeah, they've won the world strongman competition. I think 3 times. I know my friends in Poland will correct me, but I think they've won it 3 times. And
Okay.
then yeah, they've just done. they're just incredibly smart, incredibly hardworking. So,
Mm,
and that can be admired. Um,
very much so.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there sometimes where they'll work just really, really hard, and and I've gotten into where I'll work with them, and we just don't stop working. So
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. So what would you say like your biggest takeaway and your lessons go, especially as you kind of dive into this
Hmm.
new mission you're doing with touching
Hmm.
more people?
Hmm.
Like what would be what would you say some of the key takeaways from your experience in Poland that you'll take over and apply?
Just be more honest with people, or even don't assume that they're ready.
Mm,
Even if they have the confidence and they say, "Yeah, I'm ready to do it," maybe just continue working with them a little bit more and
mm.
trying to fill in the cracks.
Okay.
So,
And when you say like when they're ready, like what does that mean? Like what part like and do you are you talking about like people that are also going to kind of join your mission and spread the word, or people that are just there to hear the word
well, we
or
te-
learn?
we teach people. So, the old way of thinking of doing missions, at least in the church that we come to, is that you'd go and you would instill a pastor for 30 years, an American pastor overseeing, a church, which is fine. But it's over the last probably 15 years, there's been a move in a lot of churches to where you want to train the nationals to take over the spot. So we went in with the thought of we want to go in and we want to work ourselves out of a job. And
Okay.
so, like, I went in from day one thinking, okay, who can take my position? Which is kind of opposite of the corporate world. You ask a
Right.
boss, you know, you had Andy on here a few weeks back, and if I walked into his office and he said, "What do you see yourself in 10 years?" I said, and I would say, "Your chair." It's Andy. He'd probably laugh, but at the same time, people are like, "Oh, I want to be here in 10 years." And I walk into the mission world saying, "Okay, who can be in my spot in 10 years or in 5 years?"
I
So,
see. So you're looking to train people to and teach them as much as you can from the Bible,
mhm,
from the word, and so that they can continue doing that, and then hopefully you'll go to a new spot
yeah.
and do it again and
And
do it
so
again.
and then they can and if they take my position, then they will be training other people also to take, their position, stuff like that, so or to mimic their position in another location.
Okay,
So,
so would you say that is the mission to get more people on board so that they can spread faster
mhm,
and more, because it's a good thing?
yeah,
Um, okay, well that's yeah, that's definitely so beautiful, and it's something everybody should be adapting to. As a matter of fact, I think from a really good coach, or from my point of view, I thought it was a really good coach because that's exactly what they said. It's like you really, wherever you're at, you want to make sure that you find someone that can at some point take your spot
mhm,
so that you can, continue doing what you're doing, or so that they can roll over. You don't want to keep any information or do, or, want to kind of, I don't know, I guess some people here, like you mentioned, corporate
mhm,
is, very known for that of, oh no, this is my
yeah,
spot. Nobody's taking
yeah,
it. Right. And so I heard the opposite. Now that you're saying that, it just resonates with me
mhm,
so well. And, and I love what you guys are doing. And I agree. I mean, of course you want to train more people,
mhm,
because if your true mission is to spread the word, that is how you do it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So, okay. And so you mentioned what you would take away is kind of being more patient with people,
mhm,
or working with them longer than even if they say they're
yeah,
ready.
yeah, yeah,
Did you have some experiences, there, maybe in Poland, where,
mhm,
did people kind of say, "Hey, never mind, this is not what I want to do," or what would you say? What was
yeah.
some of that feedback?
Some have been more honest than others, and some, like, some would be like, "No, like, you know, I've done this with you now for a little while, and it's like, I have too much on my plate already, so, I'm gonna
Mm,
step out," which we appreciate.
right.
Others are like, "No, I can go ahead and do this," and then, and then they don't know how to kinda get out of it, so and they just keep doing it, and it's not 100%, yeah.
Genuine, right?
Well,
100%.
I think it's genuine, but they're just exhausted from the, 12 other things they're doing, so.
I see. I see. And what is you're here in the US, it's usually have a 9 to 5, or you have an eight and a
Mhm,
half to 9 hour uh, work period, if not more.
Mhm,
Some people have 12 hours, but it depends if you have 3 days off.
mhm.
How does the work lifestyle for Polish people? What does that look like in Poland?
For Polish people, I think it varies from company to company, but typically on average they start at between 8:30 and 9, and then by usually 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Okay,
So
so similar.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
okay. Okay.
But they get coming out of college. If with a 4-year bachelor degree, you automatically have 5 years of experience, which is a good thing, and then you get 28 days of vacation a year.
Oh, well,
So
that's helpful
yeah.
because sometimes that is the struggle here. You graduate
Hmm.
from college, a good college, but then, sometimes the struggle is getting a job because now you need
Yeah,
experience and the school doesn't not count as experience.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, that's really smart. That's something we should
Hmm.
adapt here,
Yeah,
actually. I mean, you are training
yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
So it makes sense. And okay, so now what's your next stop you said after
We'll go up to Canada.
up to
Yeah,
Canada?
we'll be up there for a month.
A month.
So
Okay. And what are you guys doing up there?
that'll just be more time just resting. I'll be visiting
Okay.
with my mom and then my dad's oldest brother. They have
Okay.
a ranch up there, so we'll kind of split the month in 2-week intervals. So
That makes sense. That makes sense. So are you happy to be back here in the US?
yes and no. It's we've been married longer in Poland than we have been in the U.S. And then our kids were born in Poland, and so that's our home. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and we're living out of a suitcase. We're on home number 6 right now. So
I
yeah.
see. And I even forgot earlier you mentioned, having to stay there a little longer because of COVID.
Mhm.
How was that in Poland?
They locked down hard, like, really hard. For the first month, we couldn't go anywhere. Like, we weren't even allowed to, we had Lydia, so we were allowed to leave for 1 hour a day
Mm.
to walk Lydia, or even, have to go to the supermarket once a week.
Was that a thing if you had kids only
Kids or dog.
or a dog?
Mhm.
Okay.
Or if you had to do it for medical purposes, like, going to, like, the doctor and stuff like that.
But if you didn't, you had to stay at home.
And you weren't even allowed to go onto your patio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how was navigating that with the mission work?
Uh It was tough a little bit. We could still talk, talk, and we use video calls, and that's kind of when Zoom was becoming a thing. And so it was we would Zoom people, and I felt funny. I'm like, I could drive to your house in 5 minutes, and we're having a Zoom call.
I
you know,
see. Okay.
so
So yeah, kind of went the technology way, kind of
yeah,
like here.
yeah,
Same similar
yeah.
concept, I suppose. And what about like your kids? How was it with, your kids and teaching them because now they can't go to a school. So
Mhm.
how did
Well,
they
Lydia was too young to go to school.
Oh,
She
okay.
was she was only 6 months old, and
Okay.
so we always joke that April of 2020, everyone just stayed in their pajamas. So yeah,
Okay, that made it easy
yeah.
because you didn't have to be a teacher at the
Yeah.
same
Yeah,
time.
well, and so the hour that we did go out every day, we'd, like, collect, like, rocks or leaves, and we kinda put everything together in a jar, and we're able to do, like, just a busy board, or, like, a sensory board, so we tried to teach her some stuff, so yeah.
Okay. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
That's very creative.
Mhm.
I know Jessica is very
Yeah.
creative too, so
Yeah.
it doesn't surprise me. And so now with the next endeavors you guys are going into, what do you expect? Like what's your what do you expect to like with the work you're gonna do? Uh, what are you hoping for?
This be, kind of our 15-year plan. So Justin and I were talking, like, if we're gonna move, we're gonna move now, whether go to a young, and then stay put, and plant roots down there, and go there until they graduate high school, and then kind of once
Mm,
they go off to college, we could be like, want to stay here? Do you want to move somewhere else? I have a
okay.
desire to write a book when I'm older, so we'll see I can write a book for anyone, so we'll see what happens. So. Uh,
What do you hope to write? What would your book be about?
Just lessons we've learned being overseas, not only lessons we've learned, and lessons that, I think other people, like other people in missions and stuff, like, need to hear, whether good or bad, so there's good things and bad things, so
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And if you were to pick a title, say now, what do you think what it would be?
I actually had a church leader give a title for it just off the cuff. I'm like, that actually sounds pretty neat. I think I'm gonna stick with it. So he'll get the credit for it. So it's lessons from the field.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
Okay. It sounds like right exactly what you just
hmm
explained that what it would be about.
yeah. Because there's some lessons that we've learned that if we could go back and do it over, that we wouldn't do what we did.
What
So
would you say one of those were?
so in our network, we were very blessed to have a church that supported us at 100% funding. They want us to focus on the mission, get that, and so we were very blessed to have that. And at the time, we didn't know any better. And then, as churches do, every 5 to 10 years, they change their vision. And so once they change the vision, it's like, well, they stop supporting people. They want to support people that are based on the vision, which is fine. And so we're like, okay, well, now we have no money. So yeah,
Okay, I see.
so
I
with
see.
it,
So
it was as if we would have known. That's why you go and ask, 6 or 7 or 8 different churches. I think we have. I was trying to count this afternoon. I think we have 15 or 20 supporters. So
mm,
like, and we didn't have before. That we're so thankful that with us now. Yeah.
but that came because of that lesson.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So now you kind of know how to maybe plan a
hmm
little bit
Yeah.
better, like
Yeah.
longer term.
Yeah. 'Cause if you lose, as people get older, some people, things change, and so it's like, well, we can't support you now at $100 now, or other people, like we have some people that are in the 80s that they'll eventually pass away, and it's like, what, yeah, so make up a couple $100 every couple of years. That's easier to do than make up 60 or $70,000.
I
So
see. I see. Definitely. I can see that now.
mhm,
So things change, of course. I mean, like they always do. And one of those lessons is to plan a little bit
mhm,
better, especially if you're going somewhere for longer
yeah.
term. So, other than these 15 churches you're currently working with, how else do you uh, obtain funding?
Well, we right now we're still looking for churches. We've had meetings. I think before we have 15 or 20 individuals, and so we just we have a little spiel we put together, and some want a slideshow, others just want just conversation over coffee. So
Okay. Okay. And so is it like partnering through like just the churches or do you do anything outside the
well,
churches?
we have a missions organization now that all the it's a nonprofit, it's a missions organization. It's a 501(c)(3), so it's a tax deductible, and all the money goes through that. And so like we have all our individuals, they either do like an ACH transfer, or put on a credit card, or some people still send a check. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's, it's good to know in case, hopefully, either this podcast or a reel
hmm
kind of goes out there, I want to make sure that, we take fully
hmm
advantage of the podcast. And if there's any way that, we can help you
hmm
guys do what you are doing in Poland, which it sounds like you guys are just making the world a little bit
hmm
better. We all want the world to be a little bit better. You have kids. I have a daughter. We plan on having more kids. And they're probably going to have more kids.
hmm
So we definitely want a better world for them. And I think, overall, the world is better than what it was, years ago, 100 years
Yeah.
ago. So I think we're making progress, and it's definitely because of people like you know, going out there and Jessica,
hmm
people like you and Jessica that basically leave their lives to go do what your heart's
hmm
telling you to do. Um, so that's so you said you have online. There's
Yeah. So and Logan probably put it either in the description, or we can put it on the screen. It's teamexpansion.org/Zorn, like our last name.
teamexpansion.org
Ex-
slash
yeah,
Zorn.
that
Okay.
links and that links it right to you can. There's a biography of our family and other information on there. So yeah.
Okay. And it's tax deductible.
hmm Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there
Yeah.
it
You just
is.
pulled it up right now. Yep. So
There it
yeah.
is. Okay. So the Zorn family has been serving in Poland since 2016, and it's now in the process of relocating to Budapest, Hungary, where Brandon will serve as a media movement
Mhm.
prayer catalyst for the One Kingdom team.
Yeah, we
Here.
call the One Kingdom team because we're in multiple countries, and so typically you can't say, oh well, we're the team in Croatia, we're the team in Serbia, we're the team in Germany. when right now we coach 11 different teams in 11 different countries, so
I
with the
see.
same but we have the same goal. So
I
one kingdom. Yeah.
see. I see.
Yeah.
We learned about a strategy from a team in Bosnia using media to catalyze discipline making movements, or media to movements for
Yeah.
short.
Disciple making movements. Yeah.
So, in this strategy, media serves as a way to identify those seeking spiritual answers online. But it doesn't stop there. The goal is to connect seekers with local believers who will meet them face to face and enter into discipling relationships with them so that they become disciples and continue making disciples among their friends and
Yeah,
family.
so, you're talking earlier about the barriers and stuff, and so that's why it takes us 3 years. But if
Mm,
someone, if their brother or if their mother or their, best friend comes to them, it's, "Oh, I've known you for 25 years. I trust what
right.
you have to say."
That makes so
Yeah,
much sense for sure.
yeah,
Okay. I see. Let's see. Okay. Our vision is to see the Great Commission fulfilled in Europe together. With this in mind, we are working and praying to see media to movements initiatives taking root in all 44 countries in Europe so they too can experience an increase of fruitfulness that ignites a powerful movement of God. Okay, that it makes
yeah,
sense, and um, and I think you hit several different things. It's like you can be at one place, select one place and coach
mhm,
other places. So as you're coaching or counseling different leaders in these different countries, what kind of like how do you communicate with them in like their languages? So do you use like a translator? How does that work?
well, so right now the my last meeting with, one of our teams was, with the guy in Romania, and, they all speak English,
Okay.
and so yeah, so English is the common language,
Okay.
so
I see. And so and you traveling there to kind of strengthen that
yeah,
relationship will,
yeah,
help.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
and like on every team, there's always at least either a native English speaker or someone that speaks English very, very well.
Oh,
And so
okay.
yeah, so like we don't have to learn the languages and stuff anyway because they're the ones that are actually going to be out there doing the doing talking to people, and we're coaching them,
I
and
see.
they're already believers, they're plugged into a church, or they're already leaders in a church, and so we can talk more business language. And English is taught in most schools in Europe,
Okay.
and
Okay.
yeah, and just like here, a lot of times, like I remember at Monotronics, you got extra if you spoke Spanish, and
Right.
so most companies there, if you speak a different language, you get more money. Like in Poland, they always advertise for English speakers, German, French, and Portuguese speakers a lot. So
Ah, okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess it makes sense. So that makes it a
mhm.
tad bit
Yeah,
easier uh to communicate and help them
yeah.
with and so what kind of tools do you guys use to, to I guess essentially like coach them or teach them or be that
Th
life coach
this
or
is something I'm still developing,
oh, okay.
and, a lot of it I haven't gone the full training because we are here and we're focused on support ratings to get back there, and once we get back there, then I'll have access to then I'll start with more focused training on that, but I'm already kinda developing some things that we have in mind just from talking to other people, and like, "Well, this is what we're struggling with," and I'm kinda seeing a common I'm looking for common, trends among the people I'm speaking with in different countries.
I
So,
see. Do you have like a mentor you go to that for
I've
help?
I've had a mentor, for just we've had one family that has mentored us, for the last 9 years, and they're actually in, Greece,
Mm,
and they're doing something similar to us, and so we've worked together for 9 years, but now that we're actually doing very similar things, it's become a lot closer than we have been before. We've always been close, but now it's like,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Now you guys kind of are more aligned
yeah,
with what you're doing.
yeah,
I
so,
see. I see. Okay. Very cool. Man, that's really cool. I got to learn a lot about what you guys, you know, did and what you guys continue to do. As far as say like coming back to the US for vacation? Do you see that do you see yourself as just kind of coming back for vacation? Do you ever see, at some point in the future, you know, moving say here to the US or anywhere in particular?
It'll um when we come to, right now, when we come to the US, it's not vacation because we do have to work. Like our home office is in Kentucky, so we go there for a couple of days to visit and do some training, and
Okay.
then people that support us, we go and we travel, travel around and see them and different churches. They always like, hey, you're here, come by and visit. So, um,
So you're always working. So
yeah,
just
we always try. It's gonna look different now that we're coming in the summers. Typically, we always come about this time, but now we're coming in the summer. So like, what is it gonna look like now? Because summers in Europe are a lot cooler than Texas summers, and
hmm
so we're like, what is the summer gonna look like now? We do want to take some vacation time, and it's like, where would we go and try to figure it out?
trying to figure
Yeah,
it out.
not just be here the whole 8 weeks and just do work, but take a week or two and just be with family and stuff like that. So, if we did move back to US, we always talked about the possibility of going out to the West Coast, like up in like Seattle or Portland.
Okay,
So
I
yeah.
see. I see. I'm curious to know if you had any particular like people you were inspired by, maybe even growing up or now, like anyone in particular that
Uh,
you've been inspired by.
you know, I my both sets of grandparents, like my grandparents on my mom's side, they were full-blood Japanese, and they were part of the Japanese internment camps, and so that was all, after World War II. So that was something that was always inspiring how they were in that, but they came out and,
Mm.
they seemed relatively okay, and then my grandmother on my dad's side, she was, from Poland, and, when the war in Ukraine happened last year, it's like, this is what my grandma went through when she was, 6 years old,
Yeah,
so
that's right, the war.
mhm.
So how did that impact how did that have an impact on your life?
Well, me personally, the first 18 hours I don't remember. I worked in Eastern Ukraine, and so for the first 18 hours, I was just calling and messaging people, and so I was kind of just in, let me check in on everybody.
That's
So
right.
I remember
Okay.
I remember walking in on um, the second day at noon. I remember walking in and Jess was cooking lunch, and I just grabbed her and just started crying because I had heard from my last friend. He like, we are safe.
Mm.
And then after that, I kind of went into just, okay, well, everyone that I know is safe. How can we help? So,
Mm. Wow. Yeah, I'm sure that was that. I mean, it was tough to see
hmm
here,
hmm
in what we were able to see through the media,
yeah,
right? So I can't imagine you guys being like there so
yeah.
close.
For the first probably week, we probably functioned on 2 hours of sleep a night because we were not only helping people in Poland and Europe, then we'd have people from Texas or California calling us in the middle of the night, because it's like 2 in the afternoon, and it's
Right.
like 2 in the morning our time, right? So,
Yes.
yeah, we didn't sleep a whole lot. So,
Oh man, man. So, did you guys have like fear or like what else was?
no, part of our training is crisis management and crisis training,
Mm,
and that is also like we have a go bag always ready, and
okay.
so like if we have to evacuate, how do we get out in 2 hours? And have since changed it to saying, okay, if we have to evacuate, what one toy, each girl can take one toy. What is it?
Mm.
And just get ready to evacuate.
So you guys are ready.
hmm
Okay, so you guys have planned for this too.
Yeah, and I have enough contacts, and like so like they tell us that if we have to get out, you get to the closest city that's safe. And so for us, it would be like in this case for Poland, for us it would be, well, we can go to Germany because I have contacts and stuff in Germany, and Berlin is a major airport, and it's also the embassy. So we're like, okay, so if we have to evacuate, we can go to Berlin. We can go stay with our friends who are workers there and just kind of wait out. And so,
Mm. So, and when you mentioned, you guys were helping people, like what, and in what ways? I'm curious to know.
so the first was just arranging transportation out of Ukraine.
Okay.
Or they had already had transportation out of Ukraine, but they're looking for making sure they get to the Warsaw airport okay, and then getting on to where they have to go. Like we were
Mm.
sending people to contacts in Dallas, contacts in Netherlands, in Germany. all over the place. So
Okay.
I remember having to be on the phone at 3 in the morning with one lady out of Ukraine. She didn't speak English at all, and so with my little understanding of Ukrainian and speak and her kind of understanding Polish, we were able, and then her sister was communicating and stuff like that too. Uh, I had to wait for her at 3 a.m. to go to the refugee center to make sure she got there safe, and then pick her up at 5 in the morning to take her to the airport.
Oh,
So
wow. Yeah, man, you guys, it sounds like you guys play a crucial role
yeah,
there.
and then we opened up a refugee. There was a hotel that because of COVID went out of commission, but the restaurant was still functioning. So we teamed up with the church, opened up a refugee center that was a hotel. Each family unit got their own room and counseling. They were there for 2 months, helped them with language and visas, and because Ukraine's not in European Union, so
Mm,
you'll often hear like Ukrainians or people from Albania. Maybe they'll say, "Oh, we go to Europe to vacation."
mm.
Oh, you're in Europe. Well, they mean the European Union. So,
Okay.
and since Ukraine right now is not in the European Union, they have to have visas
I
uh, to
see.
work.
I
It's
see.
it's different because they got refugee visas, which is different, and most people don't want them.
Mm.
Because in their eyes, it puts a black mark on their face, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
really? Okay.
because then people start sensing like, oh, oh, you're a Ukrainian refugee, and it's like this pity.
Mm. Mm. I see. So, and with when you were helping these people, what did you sense like their feelings were? Did they seem, strong and yeah, I just gotta, go to my place, or how did you help manage depending on their reactions?
I My role became more of a support role because it was so Ukraine they closed the borders for any male 18 to 64 years old who was able to fight. They were not allowed to leave. There were four circumstances where they could. Was you're the only caregiver, you have a medical condition that's not allow you to fight, or you have 3 or more children.
Oh,
Those are the conditions that they could leave, right?
okay.
Or you have a disabled child, right?
Mm.
But other than that, you have to stay and fight. And so so the majority of people coming over were just single mothers. And Ukraine, it's still very um, traditional in the fact that uh, the husbands can work and the wives can stay at home and raise kids. And that's just the way it works. And so a lot of these women coming over without their husbands and having to navigate a whole new country. Thankfully, Polish and Ukrainian are similar, but a lot of the people from the East, they speak Russian, and
Mm.
Polish and Russian, it's similar, but it's not. And so it's a higher learning curve. And a lot of them have never, they haven't worked in an office for, 20 or 30 years they just, they're stay-at-home moms, which is a tough job, but they don't have it, they don't have any other, they don't have any European Union certificates, the universities might not be recognized. A lot of them actually didn't even have any documents because, bombing starts at 4 in the morning. You just grab your clothes on your back, grab your kid, and get out, right? So you don't think to take passports and stuff like that with you. So you have to go and figure out, well, how do I get my identity to just even settle. So
Wow. Wow. So that's what you were dealing
mhm.
with. And, I mean, I'm sure you've been trained at some level, but like how did that impact you personally? I mean, did you have any similar experience prior to that dealing with such kind of chaotic
No,
moment?
no, because like when we did this crisis and hostage training and that kind of evacuating what happens if a war breaks out in your country, we're like, well, we're going to Europe. We don't have to worry about that. Could you think of like the Middle East or places where there's been constant conflict,
Right.
and you don't think of you think of World War II, but that was
You wouldn't
80,
expect
right?
it.
And
Right.
when it happened, we're like, okay, it was 8 years ago, but do you remember what to do? So,
Oh
yeah.
man. Yeah, yeah. So, and did Jessica help? Now you have your
Mhm.
kids, so, and working with your wife. What role did she play in helping?
With the Ukrainians, she was able to just be there with because a lot of had had kids and stuff, and so she was able to just bring the girls along, and they played together and just listened to the mothers. And she set up at this hotel that we had at the refugee center. They turned the patio, they turned it into like a cafe, so they had coffee time for the mothers, and then they had art therapy for the kids. We had just got connected with a lady. She's South African, but was living in Poland to a Swiss husband,
Mm.
and she's a professional artist. And she was so she came once a week and did like art therapy for the kids and everything. So
Okay. Okay. Very, very interesting, because it's such, especially, you wouldn't expect it and
mhm,
then it happened. And it's like, just even psychologically, like, I'm like, okay, wow, okay, this is actually
mhm,
happening. And so what do you, well, I guess, I would say, what do you do to kind of, connect with yourself or just kind of like be at peace? I'm assuming what the answers are going to be, but you tell me.
but yeah, we spent a lot of time in prayer, but also makes you just think about life. Like
Mm.
Justin and I, like if we had to fit our life into our entire car, we just have a little Volkswagen Jetta, station wagon. So if we could fit our entire lives into this car, what would it be?
So it really narrows down what's priority.
Mhm.
So that's always on top of
Yeah,
mind. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Very, very
yeah,
cool.
and part of that, like our parents were calling and family, they never said it, but you could hear it in the tone of voice, and so we, carry on a conversation like, "How you guys doing?" But you can always hear in the tone of voice, and then I would just be like, "We have an exit strategy. We have a go bag. I have contacts in Berlin and in Niemitz, which is about 4 hours south of Germany. And like, if we have to leave, this is our plan. We'll stay in Germany until we figure out what to do." So,
Right. Yeah.
and so like our family, like they were worried, but they didn't want to say it. Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I can't
mhm,
imagine. Yeah. You know, it's just, it's the unknown,
mhm,
right? It's like, I don't know what's going on. Like, this just happened.
mhm.
So for sure, I can, very understandable. But it sounds like, again, you have a strong team behind you guys. And
Like I said, yeah, they were all Polish, so like everything happened really fast. One of the Ukrainians, when she was thanking us, she goes, "You Polish people are very hardworking. If I asked for a two-headed unicorn hauling a chuck wagon, you guys would find it in 2 hours." So,
that puts, yeah,
yeah,
that to put it into
yeah.
perspective. Yeah. Okay. All right. Wow. That's, well, I'm not done yet. I have two more questions, but before we go there, I just want to say that I am very inspired by your mission, you and your wives. It's a crazy story, and it's very, you know, it's very admirable,
Oh, thank you.
because I mean, just thinking about just going to a different state, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
it's like, I don't, it's like the whole world is changing, right? Well, our world,
Yeah,
right? Just thinking about it. So I can't imagine going somewhere and doing the job that you're doing because it's not
yeah,
easy. Having to break down walls and build trust and to be able to do what you're there to
yeah.
do, right? Which is educate people and, teach or teach the
Mhm,
word of God through the Bible.
mhm.
And so yeah, that's hats off to that.
Oh, thanks.
And it sounds like, things are going well. You guys are moving into a different section where you'll be
Mhm.
able to touch more people.
Yeah.
So that sounds exciting.
Mhm.
Doing it the media way, which you mentioned earlier, your brother's kind of in that sector. So if you need help
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
advice, you have somebody
Yeah.
to call.
Yeah.
So you have the
Yeah.
contacts. So that's very cool. I wanted to thank you for your time and being here
Oh,
and
thanks.
sharing, your story with us. Um, so to wrap this up, my first question is, what is the greatest piece of advice you've ever received?
Probably just be yourself. I
Mm.
know that sounds cliche, but yeah, that's something that, yeah, like, or I guess don't afraid to be weird.
Mm. Okay. That's a good
Yeah.
one. That's a good one. For sure, be authentic,
Mhm.
be you.
Yeah.
And the second question is, what is your personal definition of happiness?
That was tough. Actually, I don't know if I've ever really thought of that. I guess it's being able to know what you're doing is what you wanna do, and oftentimes that's going against what your family tells you to do.
Mm, very true.
So
Very true. And yes. Um,
mhm.
well, Brandon, again, thank you for being here with us today. Very wise. And hopefully we can have you on in the future and let us know how this new adventure is
Well,
going. Um, so again, thank you.
well,
And
thank you.
all right, everyone, till next one.